I'm David Wimbish. I'm the singer and songwriter for The Collection. There are 6 of us playing a big variety of instruments, trying to cover as much stage space as possible. So it's funny, this tour that we're on, we recorded this new record, and then we were all trying to figure out, like, how are we going to play this live? And so it just kind of became a means of, like, oh, shoot, who's going to do this part? That's on the record. And it's like, oh, well, I have this other instrument. I'll pull this in. Let's do this. So this tour, somehow, we have twice as many instruments on stage as we've had in, like, years, which feels really fun. This is the funniest place I've ever written a song, but I just done a trip to Portugal, and my mental health, this was in the middle of my breakdown, so I was just in a bad spot, and I was in the airport getting ready to fly back home, and I had gone to just go get like a pastry or something, and the person's like, hi, how are you? And I was in such a bad spot that I was like, oh my God, I can't even handle that. Like, I can't even handle somebody asking me how I am. And I got my food, I ate it, and I went to the bathroom, and I was standing at the urinal, and all of a sudden the chorus to The Weather just popped in my head. So I'm like finishing up using the restroom, and I'm walking through the airport with my voice memos, quietly singing like, until I'm better, like trying to get it down. I can't forget this until I get home. It's the funniest place I've ever written a song. I think it's changed. Like, I think this tour has made me feel different songs different ways. I think my favorite sounding song on the album is Over You. I love it. And it's that song kind of has a double meaning, because it's like sort of a breakup song, but it was also coming from a place of like, I just gotten sober. I'm about to hit 3 years sober. And it kind of felt like this double meaning around like alcohol and that feeling of like, I'm getting over you, but I actually wish that I wasn't, and those kind of things. So I really love that song. But on this tour, I think Fire Hose has kind of become my favorite to play. We've been really enjoying that. I think I'm just somebody who feels a lot, and it's been to my detriment sometimes, because I just want to do things that make me feel a lot, which sometimes then wrecks my life. And so Fire Hose just feels like sort of an honest, like, yeah, drinking the world through a fire hose. Like, I'm just like, okay, give it all to me. But then it's like, okay, this made everything fall apart. And like, I'm stuck in that cycle. So that one's been really fun. I've really been having fun with that song. Yeah. Yeah, I've struggled with pretty severe depression since I was like 15 years old. And, it ebbs and flows. It tends to flow. And I feel like for people that don't experience that kind of depression, is like hard for them to understand, because they're like, oh, you're just sad. And it's like, no, that's not what the feeling is. Like, the feeling is like, it's taking all of my energy to even try to exist right now. Like, that's what's really hard. And I went through a lot of things in the writing of this record. And one of those things was that I had some sort of reaction to a substance, and ended up having a complete mental breakdown that lasted about 2 years. I like couldn't really tell what was real or not. I started hallucinating a lot. I felt very out of my body. And I in that process had thought that maybe I'd already died, and that the only way that I could continue was to like forever end my life. That I tried, and it didn't work. And I think that hitting such a low point for me got me to a place where I realized, like, I can't keep going the same way. Like, I at this point need to try whatever I can to get better. And I was having a conversation with a friend who had been on antidepressants, and they were like, have you ever tried these? And I was like, no, I had a lot of stigma built up about them. And she said something to me that just changed my life, which was like, you deserve to live a life that's not at 50%. And just realizing like, oh, I have had such self-esteem issues that I've been in the way of my own healing, because I've believed like I'm not worthwhile to like get better. And so, yeah, that kind of just like transformed everything for me. And I got on meds, and like, of course they're not changing everything, but they have made me feel like I'm not drowning all the time, like I did for, 17 years. And so the song Medication came out of that space. I very short, I think it was only a month and a half after I'd gotten on meds, I did a writing retreat just to try to write some more songs for the record. And I went up to Maine, and I got snowed into this little cabin. It was in January, and I like literally couldn't drive anywhere, couldn't go. I was like way out in the woods. And I just woke up one morning and started playing this thing on piano. And the first things that that came out of my mouth. It was, "You deserve to be well." And I just started crying because I was like, oh shoot, if I'm going to write this, I'm going to have to try to learn how to believe it. And that's where Medication, this song, came out of, and sort of was like the finishing piece on the album for me. It's so interesting to me that, like, if your body wasn't producing enough insulin and you were diabetic, then you would take insulin and you'd be like, yeah, that's not working. But if your brain is not producing enough serotonin, and then you're like, oh, I need some extra serotonin, people are like, I don't know, there's a stigma about it. And I don't get why. Like, some people's brains just are not functioning in that capacity. And I think that was the thing that was so awesome to me about Medication, honestly, was when it came out, I didn't know that it was, honestly, I thought it was such a personal song to me that I didn't know, like, oh, this is going to be the one that resonates. And then it did. And we were just getting so many messages every week from people that were like talking about their journey with medication. And I think it was the first time I realized how many people had gone through, like, needing to be on some sort of medicine without, and nobody was talking to anybody about it because of the stigma. And so all of a sudden, like, I had friends that I'd known for years that were like, oh yeah, like, I've actually been on antidepressants for 5 years. I'm like, why have you never talked to me about this? You know? So I think it just made me realize that, like, the stigma hasn't kept people from getting the help they need all the time. It's just kept them from talking about it, which then makes them feel crazy, which they're not. So often for me, music has been a container to put something in. So I feel very like I can be experiencing something very tough, and it's like taking over my body, and I'm anxious and I'm depressed and I don't know what to do and I don't know how to process it. And somehow through me working towards processing, it will make it into a song. And then it's almost like, okay, there it is. I can get it out of my body and put it on the shelf, and I can take it down if I need to still process it. But now it has a container that's not just overwhelming here. And so the music has just always been like a pretty, I don't know, constant reflection of processing around whatever I'm going through in my life, which means, like, sometimes the albums come out and they're really dark sounding, and sometimes they come out and they're really happy. Yeah, but it's a lot. We're going through some really big shifts right now. This is actually our last tour with the full band, which is, not happening for any relational reason. It's just some functional things and people wanting to do different things in their life. And so I've always kind of been at the core of the project, but obviously it's a different thing now, looking into a space where it's like, okay, well, this is like, now I'm just going to start doing this and bringing in people when I can. And so I feel like in that there's been a really nice creative flow that I have not had in a little while. I'm writing a lot of music lately, and excited to see what spaces that comes out in. I feel like the music I'm writing right now is a lot more about healing process. It feels to me, it feels like the last many records have been in the midst of struggle. This last year was one of the toughest years of my life, and through it, especially with the help of a really incredible therapist and meds and getting sober and all these things, I feel like I've found a much better sense of groundedness and peace than I've probably ever had, even though I still have days where I struggle a lot. Like yesterday was one of them. But so I feel like a lot of the songs I've been writing have been kind of about like healing and just trying to love on people better, and admiring the people who push us towards that. It's a lot around that. I just want to feel content. I think that's the biggest thing. I think I've spent a lot of my music career always wishing for more, and I think it has kept me not very present. And it really hit me in the conversations with the band and the shift that we're going through. I started to think about moments where I was like, oh, this really cool thing happened to us and I didn't even appreciate it because it wasn't enough. And I've heard from artists who are much bigger than us that are like, we deal with the same problem, or filling out stadiums and it still never feels like enough. And so I'm like, okay, when can it be enough? I just want to feel content. I feel so grateful that people listen to our music. So that's my hope, is that in 10 years, no matter where I'm at, I will feel content. And if that's true, then it kind of doesn't matter. I think I would just tell him to appreciate it all, 12-year-old David but when I was 12, all I wanted to do was tour in a band. That's all I wanted to do. And I think I would just want to tell 12-year-old David, like, you get to do it. You really get to do it. And you get to enjoy it and love it. And that's what feels true to me about my past self and my current self. It's something that we talked about for a long time, just that I think I've always wanted this music to not just be music. Like, I feel like, okay, anybody could go to a show and see a band. Like, I don't care about being entertainment. Like, I really want to be able to offer something more. And so there were a few years where it was like, it'd be cool if we threw our own event where we could just do more than just music. And it finally happened last year. So yeah, me and a business partner started it together. And we've been able to, on the music side, be able to get people we've toured with or we're friends with that we know are just amazing musicians to come play the festival. And that's been incredible. But on top of that, we're really doing a focus on mental health work with it. So this year, in between the music, we have several different tents, and there's going to be speakers and workshops, and there's psychotherapists and counselors and people doing just all sorts of like talks on mental health and on community. We're doing a lot of stuff just around trying to connect people and giving safe spaces at the festival for people to connect with each other. So it sort of was our way to be like, okay, we want to do something that's not just a show, but it's like, let's really bring people together. And yeah, it happens in North Carolina, and this, like, out in the country on this beautiful 32-acre property. And right now it's just a one-day event. We hope someday it'll be a 2-day event, but it's happening September 21st, and I'm very excited about it.